Are you there? Oh, Facebook, why are you such a pain?
Done that before, and then it kind of kicks in. So now we're good to go. It's great to see you. We've got lots of people joining us and popping in as we go.
Yeah.
Hello, Megan Hale. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for asking. And you?
I'm fabulous. This is my weekly blab. I am Jennifer Scott, and I'm from the Creation Corner on Facebook. I am a creation coach, and I look to bring fab women together every week to talk to us how we can create something fabulous. And this week is so exciting. We've got Megan Hale here, who is an enoughness coach. Did I say it right?
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
She coaches us wonderful women on how to feel and know that we are enough.
Yes.
And this week, our topic is how to create a powerful self-dialogue with the beautiful Megan. So Megan, I'll let you take the floor here for a minute and tell us what being an enoughness coach means.
Sure. So a very human quality for all of us is that we have the not enough gremlins. They come to deter us from our goals. They sabotage us with self-doubt. And so my work with my clients is learning how to create a very compassionate, loving, and empowering self-dialogue that beats those little gremlins back with a stick so we can go and expand into the people that we know we're here to be.
Wow, that's unbelievable. So is it really about almost all, it like starts and ends with the self-dialogue?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the number one determinant of how successful you're going to be. Because if you don't have, you can go anywhere in the world, but you're never going to outrun yourself, ever. Everywhere you go, there you are, right? So
John Kabat-Zinn says that, and I love it. Yeah, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, so we have to create something that's very empowering from within because it's always going to be with us. So it makes sense to me that we spend a lot of time creating something that internally is very empowering and motivating and loving and kind because it's always going to be a part of our journey no matter where we are.
Yeah, wonderful. So, I mean, our topic here is how to create a powerful self-dialogue. You've just talked to us about the importance just off the hop with feeling that enough is about our self-dialogue. But before we go right into the creating the powerful self-dialogue, talk to us a little bit about what a not powerful self-dialogue would be and where it comes from.
Sure. So I think for a lot of us, we've made self-criticism very normal for ourselves. And it's something that our culture really does for us. We're conditioned to do that. So from the time we're very young girls, we are bombarded with all kinds of messages of who we need to be and how we need to improve ourselves. There's not a lot of conversation about being enough just as you are. And there are some conversations out there about embracing your authenticity, but I still think our culture puts these parameters on it. Like you can be yourself as long as you fit into this little area and you're not too far this way or too far that way. And so as we're trying to create this authenticity, we're trying to be mindful of trying to fit in this box still. So we're always kind of judging ourselves and comparing ourselves against how well we're doing compared to others, how well we're doing against what culture wants us to do or fit into. Mm-hmm. So you see a lot of self-criticism naturally come up in the psyche just as it is. And when you couple that with any sort of traumatic situations, any type of hurtful situations, negative relationships, we've all had toxic relationships, oh my God, right? Yeah. We've all had moments in our lives where we've been let down, where we haven't been able to achieve our goals. And it's really easy for us to get down on ourselves. So you see this self-criticism, I mean, it's just part of being human, first of all, but it's really kind of encouraged in our culture in a way for us to be thinner, to be prettier, to be richer, to be more successful, to be happier.
Yeah.
So we're always trying to be all of these things, never just really embracing where we are right now. And that's where the enoughness piece comes in.
And I think that's what's so I mean, why you and I have hit it off so well, and how what we both do, it complements each other so well, because it's so true. When you want to create something, when I help women create what they want in their life, they have these deeper desires, they have these feelings that they want to go after, but when you say like it's staying within their box, some of those desires seem like ridiculous. Like, I'm this mom, this wife, this, I work at this job, there's no way I can go after that and then actually believe that I can achieve it, never mind just going after it, if I can even achieve it. Right? So how does that play into the powerful self-dialogue? So if you think about feeling like enough, if you think about manifesting your true desires, right? What is a powerful self-dialogue?
Well, I want to kind of piggyback on something that you just said, because I think it's really important before we dive into this. I want women to know that if you're on an entrepreneurial journey, which most of our clients are, you are in like the vast minority of the population.
Yeah.
I think, I read a statistic that I think like 5 to 15% of the population are entrepreneurs. It's a very small percentage of people. And so when you're talking within your circles about your big dreams, about going off on your own, about following your passion or following your purpose and going and creating what you really desire, you're a very small percentage of people in the world that are doing that. And so for a lot of us, when we're first getting started, we start sharing our dreams, and people are real quick to say, I don't think you're going to be able to do that. You're not going to be successful. You're going to leave this job that's secure and stable. Why are you going to do that? Yeah. And I wrote a blog post that's called 6 Ways to Protect Your Dreams, that really talks about how we have to be really mindful of who we share our dreams with. And especially in the early stages, because our dreams are very vulnerable, very, very vulnerable. And they're very vulnerable to self-doubt. So if we're letting people who aren't on the same path as us, who don't have the same vision as us, who haven't tapped into their purpose or seen something more for ourselves, we let their voices come into our self-dialogue. That is a very quick way of taking the energy and sucking it right out of your dreams. So you have to be really careful of that. So when it comes to answer your question, to create an empowering self-dialogue, you have to bring awareness to what it sounds like in your head. So what I mean by that is, and on my podcast, I ask my guests, if I were to crack open your brain and see the conversation that's going on in there, what does it look like? What are the words that are actually being used? Because we all talk to ourselves all the time, right?
What a powerful question. Yes.
Yes. Well, I love it because
and our listeners here, as you're sitting here listening to this, we see you. I see you saying hi, Megan. See you saying hello to us. Give us some love. Give us some props up if you're enjoying this. But also for you to remember and listen as you're listening here. Think about that. Crack open your own head as you're watching this, and what is the talk that's going on inside your head. Okay, please continue. Yes.
And so right now in your group, I'm having so much fun leading this 5-day challenge, because it's really asking people to get into their own inner dialogue, especially the activity we did yesterday, which is talking to our inner mean girl, our inner critic, right? So I really want to bring more awareness to, what is this voice in your head telling you? Because that's the self-criticism, and we all have it. It's a big piece of being just a human being. But the way the brain works, this is a really big one. So for any of you, psychologists or psych people in here, hi. We all know that a major psychological principle is that you can't just simply tell the brain to stop doing something without giving it something new to focus on. It doesn't understand that. So if we raise awareness of the self-criticism, and we just tell the brain, stop thinking that way, stop thinking that way, stop thinking that way, all you're doing is telling your brain, think that way, think that way, think that way.
Totally, yes.
Right? Because it's like, and I use the analogy all the time, if I tell you not to think about a red car, don't you dare think about a red car. I don't want you to think about
cars. That's all I see.
Exactly.
That's all I see is red cars.
The brain doesn't get the negative. It only gets the subject. So to create the compassionate self-dialogue is a huge component of this. How do you learn to speak to yourself with more kindness, with more calm, with more ease, with more soothe, to create this yummy, delicious, supportive conversation that when that inner voice starts coming up, you say, no, 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 darling.
Yeah.
We are totally okay.
Yeah.
We totally have everything going for us in our favor. Everything's happening right on time. You're already making so much progress. People are coming to you with ease. Your dreams are unfolding right now as we're speaking. This kind of dialogue leaves no room for that critic to come. And she might say, but,
Yeah.
it's okay. We have to soothe her. And what most of us do, we tell her to shut up and to deal with her stuff. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And all that does, it's like trying to bury something and hoping that it dies. And that's not how it's going to happen.
Yeah. And I said, I would even add this to it. And if you could talk a little bit about this as well, is not only do we tell her to shut up, or we believe her.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Or we'll believe her. So what's the difference between telling her to shut up and then just kind of going into believing her?
So one of the biggest lessons I think to realize for any human is to not trust your thoughts and feelings just at face value. And I think that sounds a little kind of crazy when we first introduce this concept, because we want to be able to trust ourselves. But, and Brene Brown explains this so well in her work, where she talks about the shitty first draft. So the first thought or the first story we tell ourselves is not always like the most broad perspective, objective opinion on things. It's usually going to be emotionally charged. And if we never question it, we can fall into the fallacy of what our inner critic is telling us. And our inner critic is always based on fear of not being enough. Always. That she's not going to be loved enough. She's not going to belong enough. She's not going to get enough of what she needs. That she's not going to get enough of what she wants. And if we don't ever question that shitty first draft, then we're going to let that rule our lives. And what happens to our dreams and our creativity, our ability to create as a result of that, is devastating. Absolutely devastating.
And you know, you say something so great here that reminds me, I'm just going to throw in the Course in Miracles here, because I am a Course in Miracles student. And one of the biggest teachings that has always resonated with me is you always have the choice between fear and love.
Yes.
But we are programmed to respond with fear first. So it goes into exactly what you're just saying, right? The first draft, the first thought is not always right. There is a love thought there. There is a love track there. There is a way of love, peace, good feelings, joy, abundance. But our go-to, until we really start to do this inner work, is usually fear.
Oh, yes. And I think that the idea of getting rid of fear altogether is complete nonsense. I wouldn't even waste my time trying to do that.
I agree 100%.
Because, I mean, fear is a part of being human, and it's there for a reason. It's a necessary component. It's the thing that keeps us safe. The fact is that fear has no discernment over what's really a very vivid threat and what isn't. And so instead of it being a life or death situation, and Elizabeth Gilbert talks about this in Big Magic so wonderfully, but instead of it being a life or death situation, it's like, we're just going after a dream. Like, nothing's on the line here. I just want to write that book. I just want to start that coaching practice. I just want to create that product. No one's going to die.
We're not in brain surgery here.
But fear doesn't know that. And so I think the more you understand the way fear works, you can start to kind of embrace it and love up on it a little bit, because that's all it really needs is love. And we usually just try and avoid it and tell it to go away, but it really needs something from us during those times.
Yeah. And I mean, same with creating and with manifesting. I mean, the goal is never, ever to get rid of fear. It's like you just said, that is totally unrealistic. But the goal is to figure out, when fear shows up, what do I do? What's my plan? What's my go-to? Do you know what I mean? Not to never have fear, but the goal is to identify it and then do something. So what would your do something be?
So action is a huge piece of creating what you want, period. I think a lot of, like when we talk about manifesting, and especially when The Secret came out and the law of attraction started to gain traction, there was this proponent that if you just wish something enough, it'll come true.
Yes.
Well, we all have to do our job. we have to play with the universe too and show up, right?
Yeah.
So when we're having this, when we notice that our critic is coming up, some actions that I would take is to journal about it. And I use a really powerful technique in my journaling. It's called non-dominant journaling. And so what I will do is I'll actually switch my pen into my non-dominant hand, and I'll let my inner critic talk to me. And I'll put the pen back in my dominant hands. It switches the power physically. And I write compassionately back to her. The other thing I'll do is I'll take some time out and just sit and be and just clear some space. And that's where a spiritual practice is really helpful, whether you're into meditation, whether you're into energy work. Sometimes just lighting sage or lighting a candle can totally change the mood and create a sacred space for this energy to kind of move out and for you to remind yourself who you are. I think so often we get caught up in the waves of self-doubt, and it takes us away from who we really are and what we believe is true about ourselves. So anytime you can create a space to come back to that, I think is incredibly important. But beyond that, it's to go and take bold action. Go and actually do something about it. So I think for a lot of people, we struggle discerning between what's intuitive and what's fear. So when we get an intuitive hit of maybe this isn't the right choice, we can sometimes say, well, maybe that's just fear. Maybe I should do it anyway.
Yeah.
So this takes some time and some practice to really learn how these two voices sound and where they come from, because I feel like they come from a different place in the body. It feels different physically. So being in touch with that and playing around with those energies, I think is really important too. But I think that taking bold action and just making a decision doesn't have to be the right decision. I don't think that there's like right and wrong. I think sometimes we just have to make a choice to get the path moving. We'll know very quickly, like, whoa, I need to back up out of that. Or something positive comes onto that path and says, okay, then I can keep on going.
So in the work that I do with my clients is I get them to start to call it evidence. And we have a lot of fun with it. We use it like as hashtag evidence. They'll text me stuff or whatever. So something when they're working on like, I never have enough money, have enough money. That's a fear belief that they have, right? There's that word enough too. There's no coincidence there. So that's a fear belief that they have. So then I'll say like, well, what happens if the opposite could be true? Like, I do always have enough money, right? And they start to see, and it starts small. So when you say, starting to get used to this and play around with this, it starts small for the viewers who this is new for. You do find a penny on the street. It is a smile from a stranger. It isn't like, you immediately feel that you're more than enough, or it's that you immediately have a windfall of money. It starts small, but when you notice it as evidence or signs or whatever, that builds the momentum in the direction you want. So talk to us a little bit about the momentum of powerful self-dialogue and when we know we're more on track. What are the signs?
So I think that some of the most powerful statements we can give ourselves are usually like 2 words long. And what I mean by that is simply I can. Changing an I can't to an I can. You think that this is really subtle. And I'll never forget when I was working with a client who was just so incredibly downhearted on themselves and had lost all belief. And we were talking, and for the first time, I heard them say, I can. And I was like, whoa, stop what's going on here. And they're like, what? I'm like, did you hear what you just said? And they wanted to just kind of scale on past it. But I said, this is huge. And they weren't aware of how big of a deal that was. But simply changing an I can't to an I can have massive impact on the future of your path. Also, the phrase I am, whatever follows that phrase, whatever that word is, whatever that adjective is powerful. It is so powerful. So being mindful of just the very small statements first, but also challenging yourself. And this is where we start to really change the perspective that we're using. So when we notice that we're in this negative space, what's a way to look at this from a positive place? So couple of years ago, I looked at my bank account. I'm not going to lie. It was 0.00.
Come on.
I'm not kidding. It has never happened before. I didn't overdraft. There was just enough money to cover the expenses that were coming out. And I looked at it, and for the first time ever, I said, there's just enough.
Oh.
And it was monumental for me, because normally I'd be like, oh my God, I have no money. Nothing is going on. And literally like no money. But I looked at it from a stance of there's always enough. There's always just enough. And so learning to look at your situations in a way that frames them in a positive light is a tool that you can use like a muscle. We have to train it. So when you notice that you're in that negative vibe, sometimes we have to feel what we feel. There's definitely truth to that. We have to process if we're grieving something or something. We're allowed to be frustrated. We're allowed to experience the whole broad spectrum of human emotion. But to bring yourself out of it, you have to flex your muscles. And a great way to do that is to look at things from a positive place, to reconnect with your passion, to do something fun and silly, because we are so bad about taking ourselves so seriously. Everything's like the worst case scenario. Everything has so much weight to it. I would say lighten up a little bit. Lighten up. It's okay.
So we have some things going on I want to talk into here. Renee Robinson, thank you so much for your dialogue on the side here. I sat in silence and let my mind wander and sat still, got a lot of great ideas, etc. It was awesome. First time I ever did that. Yeah, I think that you point out something important here too, Renee, is that when you sit or you go inside to listen or to be still or to get to know those different parts of you, you're not quiet. Like there's not this like quiet space, right? Like where it's just everything silent. You get all these answers. So the fact that you're going in and investigating and just watching, that is the beginning of it all. That is the beginning of it all, actually. When I started my journey 20 years or so ago with mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn was my teacher, and he was the one that said, like, just go watch. Just go watch. That's the start. And she's saying here that it just happened last night. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay, so please, like, any questions? We get a lot of people benefit from the recording of this. It's very watched mostly on the recording, but that's okay. If you have some live questions, please hit us up in the sidebar. So Megan, what else can you add, or what else is the most important thing when you're a woman or a man? We've got some male listeners that have jumped on, but when we work mostly with women. So when you're a woman and you're just starting to notice this whole world out there. I mean, I think you've probably had that experience yourself. I've definitely had that experience where it was like, wow, like maybe I'm the one that has choice with my thoughts in my life. Like, and then where do you recommend to just get started?
So before I answer that, I want to answer Renee's question.
Great.
Because it's such a good question. And I say this all the time. She says, if I can't say I can right now, can I start with maybe?
Oh, willingness.
Yeah. I love that so much, Renee. I say that all the time. All good things start with maybe. So what maybe does in our minds or in our souls, when we use a maybe, what I imagine is that it cracks open a door. And that crack is just enough for a little bit of light to get in. That's what a maybe does. And a maybe is not going to swing that door wide open. It just creates a little space for maybe things can be different. Maybe I can be a little bit better. Maybe I can be different than I am. Maybe things are not the way that I think they are. Maybe they aren't. Maybe opens you up to possibility. And so I think maybe is probably one of the strongest tools you can use in the beginning. Because when we are coming from a place where we're doing a lot of healing work, we need to do a lot of healing work. We have experienced a lot of negative experiences in our lives, and we've become beaten down by them. It's going to be really foreign and not going to feel very authentic for us to say, oh, I can be whatever, and I can be, confident, and I can be courageous, and I can go and do all those things. And I think I love sometimes when therapists are like, go and talk to yourself in the mirror and tell yourself that you're beautiful and all of these things. And I think that it has a place, but when it doesn't feel like it can be true, it's not going to feel good. And it can sometimes set you up for feeling actually worse because you feel even further away from where you really want to be. So a maybe is a beautiful bridge that crosses the gap from where you are now to where you want to be in the future. The maybe allows you to take that first step there. So Renee, I think that you're amazing for even bringing that up. You're very in tune with your process, girl. So keep on going for it.
All that's ever needed is just a little bit of willingness. All that is ever needed is willingness. And the maybe word is a willingness word, for sure. All that's ever needed is willingness. Okay, great. And also goddess at Stone. I love
that is Audrey at Goddess at the Grindstone.
Ah, cool. Goddess at the Grindstone. Thanks for all the support here. Love that as a first step. Excellent. Yeah, this is great. So
do you want to answer your question real fast?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So the question was, how do we get started? First of all, I think we have to have really realistic expectations for ourselves. Noticing that when we start anything new, we're going to be moving through the cycles of change. And I think that this is a really key principle for everyone to understand, because the normal process of change is we take a few steps forward and then we take a few steps back. And we kind of do this cha-cha for a very long time until something new starts to feel our new normal. So what happens though, and you see this all the time, we're getting ready to move into the new year, where people set these resolutions and they set very unrealistic goals for themselves. I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days or whatever that it might be. And so they start this new routine. And what happens is within 2 weeks, they're usually falling off and they're stepping back and they're relapsing into their old ways, right? Most people give up because they see that as a complete failure. And this is where black and white or all or nothing thinking can come in. That if we make one little mistake, if we make one little error, if we fall off the wagon, we're done. We might as well throw in the towel. Why even try anymore? I've ruined this.
Definitely.
That's the thing that separates people who are successful at change and people who aren't. People who are successful realize that falling off the wagon and making a mistake and not doing something perfectly, that's part of the process. Part of the process. And so what we do is we take this step back and we look at, so what happened here? What happened? Was I not getting enough sleep? Was I not in a very good emotional space? Am I not really dealing well with my stress? Could I have reached out for support? What was it that I could have done differently to prevent this step back next time around? So each time we are going through this process, it's kind of like a cyclone, except instead of moving down, we're actually moving up. So we're learning more and more each time. So every single time we step back, we're gathering a little bit more data and we're coming back around, we're using this. And then what ends up happening is that all of this experience turns into wisdom that we can then use to create more compassion and more grace, which, oh my gosh, do all of us women need more grace? So when we step back, when we fall off the wagon, it's like, okay, you just get back on it and you keep on going. It's not the end of the world. You're not a failure. And it's up to you to determine how you want to frame that.
Wow, so powerful and so true. So wonderful. So Megan, how can our viewers and the people that are listening to the replay, how can they get more of you? How can they get more of this? How can they start really learning the journey of powerful self-dialogue, work to feel and know deep within that they are enough, you are enough? How do they get started?
I'd like to share 3 places. You can always visit me on my website, which I'm going to type into the box.
Okay, you're typing? Okay, great.
Which is megan-hale.com. And I also have a beautiful Facebook group. It's called the Bold, Beautiful Soul Tribe, which I will share that link as well. And I also have a podcast that's called The Enoughness Revolution, where I talk to amazing women, such as Jennifer, who I just talked to yesterday or a couple of days ago, about other journeys to enoughness. So what are the tools that other women are using to become enough and stay enough as they continue to go boldly out into the world?
Mm-hmm.
How do they do the inner work that allows them to discover their beauty and to share it with others? So I think that by collecting these stories, one, it brings us all together because it's so human in all of us. We all have our own journeys to becoming enough. But because each woman's journey is different, I think that each person resonates with others at a different level. And so I encourage you to keep on listening to the podcast and joining me for all of these different journeys, because you never know when one woman's going to say that one thing in just the right way. So you can really hear it.
Yeah, that's just going to domino it all.
Yes.
And Renee, I've spent the past month trying to decide what to do for my New Year's resolution this year. I've changed my mind a few times. Last night I decided not to make a New Year's resolution this year. After all I can say to you is boom, baby, yes.
She decided to set instead. Let's see. What did you decide to set?
But you know what? The idea of not setting a New Year's resolution and leaving space to see what evolves naturally is a fantastic New Year's resolution. Just let your 2016 January unfold. What are you being called to create? What are you being called to discover in yourself? The intention to go forward. Yes, exactly. What do you want? Everything comes back to this, and so sure you can agree, Megan, in your own work. What do you want? What do you want, right?
I think that's the most important question.
Yeah. What do you want? And then usually, lots of times, at first, that inner desire comes out as a crazy idea. It does. It comes out as a crazy idea. I remember when I really got in touch with the fact that I wanted to work from home and have my own business, I was like, right. But that's where it all starts. So thank you so much for joining me. This was just absolutely wonderful. I am in a blab bonanza today. I have the wonderful Sherry Teagan coming with me this afternoon.
Love her.
I know she's the one that connected you and I. She is a beautiful soul, and she is talking about soul spark in your biz, which is just going to be fantastic. You can find me and other amazing creators like Megan Hale at my group, The Creation Corner, in Facebook. And I am here weekly on my blog. So if you want to follow, that would be wonderful. Share it with your friends, and let's help set up a movement. I mean, it has been set up. There are women rocking it out there, but women, it's time to come together. It is time to get our enoughness on. It is time to create what we want. And it is time to lead this beautiful vibration that is being created in our world today. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for being a part of this. And everybody else, keep getting your create on and your enoughness on.
Woo!
Take care. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.